So we're gonna make the Saturday overnight bread. You're gonna need 1,000 grams of white flour, 780 grams of 90 to 90 degree Fahrenheit, that's 32 to 35 degrees Celsius water. So 780 grams of that. 22 grams of fine sea salt and 1 gram of instant dried yeast. And grams are interchangeable with milliliters. So if you only have a milliliter thing, you can use that as well. Got my ingredients. I've got a scale. I've got my yeast. I've got my warm water and a big bowl, my flour and my salt. So I'm just going to first start with the flour. I'm gonna tare it. I'm gonna make it down to 0. And I'm going to add 1,000 grams of flour just to the bowl. Once I have 1,000 grams of flour in there, I'm going to pour in the warm water. I'm going to do it slowly. I'm going to start incorporating it with my hands. It's going to be kind of sticky and not really form a dough yet, and that's okay. It's not really for that. Basically just trying to get all elements of the flour kind of wet. Bread is now in the autolyze phase where it's just hanging out under a little cloth for 20 to 30 minutes, nothing else, so it's just bread and water. Just let it chill and autolyze. So now it's just been hanging out in a warm place for about 20 minutes. I'm gonna take it out and I'm gonna start to shape it, but I'm also going to add the salt and the yeast. Salt goes on one side and the yeast goes on another, so they don't immediately touch each other. And you mix it all together and we'll start to fold it and incorporate everything. Good method for incorporating the salt is you do it a little bit and then you pull it from the bottom, you pull the dough up and over, and then you fold it again. Pull from the bottom, up and over. So once you've incorporated the salt and the yeast together, what I like to do is put a little olive oil on the table and start to fold it until it becomes a nice smooth ball of dough. Meanwhile, I'm going to wash this so that it's nice and clean for me to put the dough back in to rise. So to knead the dough, most people use flour. Most recipes say to use flour, additional dusting. I actually use olive oil. I find it to be a much softer, more delicious dough. So when I put it on my table to knead it, I just add maybe a couple glugs, and I'm just gonna knead it like it's a piece of, I don't know, dough that needs to be sort of flipped over constantly. I'm gonna do this for about 5 minutes until I have a very consistent dough, or there aren't any little pockets of flour left. Okay, now it's all smooth. I'm going to make it into a small ball so that I can put it into this greased bowl that I've created. It's got some olive oil in it. I've also put olive oil all around the top of the loaf so that it doesn't get crusty while it rises. So the first thing you want to do is the first fold that matters the most is 1 hour after you've put it in here to rise. But then you're going to leave it for about 12 hours. Okay, so it's been about an hour. It's been chilling in a warm space, covered in a towel. You see here. And it's risen a fair amount. It was actually, not that high before, and now it's fairly high. You can actually see the bubbles. So I'm just gonna go ahead and puncture them and get it out. And then I'm gonna do a similar move that I did before when I was actually kneading the bread. I'm gonna pull from the bottom up, pull it down. What this is gonna do is actually create some very welcomed air bubbles in the bread itself. All right, make sure that it's still very slick on top. That'll make sure that it doesn't get all crusty as it begins to rise. All right, and now we just let it go for at least 10 hours. Good morning. Okay, we're 12 hours later. It's around 8 a.m. And what I've done is transferred the bowl from the nice little bowl to my proving basket. Now my proving basket can be all shapes and sizes. I have one that looks like a long cylindrical thing. I have one that looks like a bowl. And what I did was cover it in flour and then dump the bowl in here with basically the nicest, smoothest side down. I created it into a ball again, and then I dumped it face down. So what's gonna do is actually gonna rise in the proving basket for about an hour while I preheat the oven with the Dutch oven in the oven while it's preheating. When I say Dutch oven, I mean this. It's a cast iron pan. It doesn't have to be this big, but it has to be fairly big enough for significant rise. And it needs to have a top. You can use a regular pan as well, as long as it has a top. Just no plastic, obviously. If you don't have that, you can cook it on a pan with some wax paper or parchment paper on the ground. But you won't really get the kind of crisp that you need from the steam and the crispiness of the Dutch oven. Oh, and to be clear, you should be preheating the oven to 475 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 245 degrees Celsius. During this hour of wait time, I'm almost there. Looks like it's totally pretty risen in my little proving basket, and I'm almost at temperature. What I did was I went ahead and I chopped some herbs to go on top of the bread. Now, you don't need this. This is totally just like optional. What's required is that you have salt to sprinkle on top. But if you have some herbs, dried or otherwise, basil's really good, oregano, sage, thyme, rosemary. Just go ahead and give them a light chop so that they can spread evenly across the top of the bowl. Okay, so I dropped my bowl from here and into the Dutch oven. It looks a little wonky, but that's okay. You know, just have a little faith that it'll taste better than it looks if it looks a little weird. And then what I'm gonna do is drizzle some olive oil on top. And I'm going to throw, you can hear it sizzle because it's a very hot pan. Throw some of the herbs on top as well. And a significant dusting of very, very thick sea salt. And then I'm gonna get my lathe, which is, you don't really need, you can do it with a knife as well. But it's really nice to have a very sharp knife to create a slice in the bread. So I'm just gonna do a big circle here. So what this is gonna do is maintain the bowl's shape as it rises. Now it'll actually create this on its own, but it may do it in an inconvenient spot for the bread's shape. So I just kind of do it off to the side to make sure that I'm controlling where it's actually happening. Okay, so now she's ready to go in. I cook it for 30 minutes with the top on, 20 minutes with the top off. I'll see you in 15 minutes.